Alrighty guys, welcome back to another guide-ish video for Project Zomboid. Today I wanted to cover each of the skills in Project Zomboid, giving a brief overview of each one and what it exactly does for your survivor and how to best level it up. So to start off with, we'll be looking at each skill individually, covering some of their benefits, a little bit of factoids here and there, nothing too crazy. This is basically a beginner guide, but hopefully you all get something out of it. Anyways, I hope you all enjoy. In Project Zomboid, there are 21 main skills that your character has when playing the game. Each one has their own benefits and reasons on why you should level them. We'll be briefly discussing each one and discussing how to level them based off my own experience. There are two skills in the passive category. There's fitness and there's strength. Both are pretty self-explanatory, but fitness is essentially how long it takes your character to get winded or exhausted, so the higher you have this skill, the longer your character can run for and do combat for. It also affects how quickly you can recover from being exhausted, which is a pretty nice benefit. Strength, on the other hand, affects how much you're able to carry, the chance to push zombies on the ground, and the base weapon damage for swinging many different weapons. Both are leveled by using the fitness tab mainly in the health menu. There are also some other ways to passively level it, such as running, cutting down trees, or just running around with a heavy load. Though you'll see the most returns when working out, so best hit the gym, do them push-ups, do them burpees, and if you're lucky, get a couple dumbbell curls in. Agility, on the other hand, covers how well your character traverses through obstacles and zombies. The sprinting skill affects how fast your character moves around, jogging or sprinting, which also includes a sneak jog. The best way to level this is to simply jog everywhere and you should see results. Nimble, which is another slept-on skill, determines how fast your character is in the character stance and how graceful you climb fences. The fast strafing is a real benefit to have, as it makes backing up during combat much more safe and much more risk-free. The only way to actually level up Nimble is to either climb fences or simply walk around while in that combat stance. The last two go hand in hand, which is sneaking and light-footed. Light-footed is how loud your character is running around or sneaking around, and sneaking is how detectable your character actually is. The best way to level both of these is to sneak around zombies. So now, a quick little note is that the only way to actually level this is to sneak and run around while also remaining undetected. You won't get any XP if the zombies are already aggroed to your survivor, so the best way to level this is to try and sneak around a lot of zombies, though this will most likely be a passive skill you see increase over time. One tip though, that would be a nice little way to level up, is setting up somewhere on a roof like a school, blowing out the stairs with a sledgie, and attracting a huge horde near the roof. By doing this, you can attract them to the walls, try and lose them with your sneak skill while also being at a safe distance, and it'll be really easy to lose them as you're on a second story and you're running around right out of their sight lines. Combat as a section is pretty self-explanatory. The two main skills will be the weapon skill, which is divided by every weapon category. This is important if you want to kill zombies quickly, along with the strength skill. The higher the level, the more crits and damage you will do overall. This is obviously leveled up by dealing damage to zombies with the weapon category you need to level up. There's also a hidden benefit of defense as well. The higher your weapon skill, the less likely a zombie will actually land a hit on you should it break through your defense. Now, you shouldn't rely on this too crazy, but it might just save your life if you get ambushed by a couple of zombies, as long as they don't drag you down, of course. The other main category would be maintenance, which determines how long your weapons will actually last. This is especially useful if you want to use expensive weaponry, but want them to last a little bit. Maintenance is best leveled up by either breaking weapons by killing zombies, or you could smash weapons in general. One of my favorite ways to level it up would actually be chopping down trees with disposable weapons like stone axes that you can get from foraging. This way you can level up maintenance without sacrificing too much equipment for your own gains. The crafting tree is probably one of the more fleshed out and complex of all categories, and each skill has its own use in helping your survivor survive a little bit better in the apocalypse. Starting off, we have the most versatile and used skills, carpentry. Carpentry is used mainly for building and defending your base. The higher levels in carpentry, the more things you can build, ranging from passive rain collectors and composters to stronger walls and stairs to help build your own base. The higher skill, the higher the quality of walls, which also increase the health by a good chunk as well. I've also found that the best and quickest way to level up carpentry is by disassembling furniture with the hammer and screwdriver. The ones I found the most return in terms of XP are the double beds you can find in homes. All you need is a small handful and the XP return should be plentiful, though if you find yourself looking out for some more things to disassemble, I highly suggest going to a warehouse and disassembling all the crates inside. Just the sheer density will allow you to get quite a few levels of experience given you have the books and supplies in just a single warehouse or two. Carpentry also has an effect on wooden spears. As the higher level your carpentry skill is, the more durability in the spears that you will have when you craft them. So if you are a spear build, at least 1 or 2 levels in carpentry should help out make your spears a little bit more usable. Next up, we have cooking, which doesn't really have much going for it right now. The only real benefit currently is level 7 cooking, which allows you to cook meals with rotten food without getting sick. One easy way to level it that I found is by foraging until you get to around level 4 foraging skill. Once you start getting things like crickets and cockroaches, you can easily forage up hundreds of them in a few days. Now, this is actually a pretty crazy XP little trick, but since each item you cook technically gives you XP, you can shove like 500 crickets all into an oven and power level the hell out of cooking. So if you don't have the foraging skill yet, you can also just bulk make berry salads into a bowl if you got one. Super helpful, and it doesn't take too long as soon as you start to level up that foraging skill. Farming is also a pretty nifty skill to level up. Not much to say about it, other than just the higher level your character is, the more in-depth the information gets when you highlight your crops. With an high enough skill, you can even see the exact health and water levels your crops are at. The only way to actually level this up currently is by successfully harvesting crops when they're ready for harvest. Up next, we probably have the hardest trait to actually level up, and that's going to be First Aid. Raising the First Aid skill speeds up the healing process for wounds and makes it to where bandages get dirtier slower. The only way to actually level up this skill is performing First Aid on yourself or others. And of course, in a zombie game where a single bite is game over, it's pretty hard to level this skill up. One way you could level it without the chance of a game over though, and my favorite and go-to, is to simply dig furrows with your hands in the ground. As digging furrows only scratch your hands up, there's no chance of dying from a zombie infection, or just dying in general as long as you have the antiseptic on hand. And plus, it only affects your hands, so every other body part is gonna be good. So that means you can still shove zombies over and use your feet, should you need it. Now, there is another way to actually level it up as well, and that's by breaking a glass window and going through the cleaned up glass windowsill. Now, this one is a little bit more risky, because you do have the chance of getting a lodged glass shard, which requires a little bit more medical attention as you would need a suture needle and definitely a lot of disinfectant. The electrical skill can be especially useful for late game, so it's helpful to at least have a few levels in it. For one, it affects how well your character uses electronic scrap to repair generators, which become really crucial once the power goes out. Though you can craft some timers, the ability to actually operate a generator without picking the electrician skill in some recipes still need magazines to learn, so you won't be able to use generators until you come across a proper skill magazine. The best way to level up electricity is to simply disassemble every digital item you come across. This can range from walkie-talkies to video games and the more commonly found digital watches. As long as you're killing zombies, getting an abundance of digital watches should be no problem for you to disassemble. If you find a magazine, you could also build makeshift walkie-talkies from all the electrical junk you got from disassembly. There is also one more benefit to getting electrical to at least level 1, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Metalworking is very much like the carpentry skill, but instead of focusing on wood, you're focusing on the obviously stronger cousin of the two, metal. Raising the metalworking skill will allow you to create very strong walls and furniture for your little base camp. Increasing the level of metalworking allows you to do more and build more of the objects. Though one thing to keep in mind, much like the electrical skill, you're going to need skill magazines to create the furniture, unless you take the metalworker's profession from the start. The best way to level this is to simply dismantle anything that requires a blowtorch. This can range from the bathroom plumbing to car wrecks. I found the best place to level metalworking is actually inside schools due to the sheer amount of lockers clumped up in a nice little dense area. It's really damn good to level it up. Up next, we have the mechanic skill level. There's not much to talk about, other than that increasing the mechanic skill allows you to interchange more parts in the car with less of a chance of failure. At a level 1 skill, you're only going to be able to change out simple things such as batteries or headlights, but at higher levels, you can move on to stuff like salvaging engines to help repair your own vehicles. The best way to level mechanics is to simply uninstall and reinstall parts. You can easily work on a single vehicle by just simply removing parts and reinstalling them into the same vehicle or into others. Though there is a 1-day cooldown, so you can't just uninstall and reinstall headlights until you're a mechanical god. You're gonna have to at least wait 1 day for you to actually get XP from it again. Now, back to what I said about electrical. and that is the fact that you can actually hotwire vehicles if you have a level 2 mechanic skill and a level 1 electrical skill. Hotwiring vehicles is one of the better skills to have, as it opens up almost every single vehicle to be drivable. All you need is a gas tank, gas, and almost every single vehicle is up for grabs. Super helpful if you like having vehicles on hand and just grabbing one on the go. The tailoring system is definitely a luxury to have. Essentially, you can patch your clothing as well as repair rips and tears. Though the cool thing is that with each level you get, the more defensive patching actually adds to the clothing. So to start off with, you'll have like a 1% tailor protection value for simple cloth, and a 2% for denim or leather strips. And by level 10, it can increase up to 10% protection. Now, with it being able to be done in almost every single piece of clothing, and with how you can stack many layers of clothing, you can create one hell of a zombie-proof set of clothing. The best way to level tailoring would be ripping off clothing off zombies, getting patches with thread, and working on random pieces of gear by either repairing or adding onto it. This is definitely one of those that will be very hard to level up, but will be very worth it in the endgame, especially when that patch saves your life. We finally got through the crafting menu, and now it's time for firearms. This one's going to be pretty brief as there's not really much to it. There's the aiming and reloading skill, which are both pretty self-explanatory. The aiming skill determines your headshot and normal hit rate, range, and recoil time. To start off, you'll probably won't be able to hit the broadside of a barn, so this skill is needed to use more skill-based guns such as pistols or rifles. The best way to level this is to simply shoot zombies, with shotguns of course. The shotgun is the loudest variant of a gun, but it also does the most amount of damage, and it kills the most amount of zombies per shot. The XP is actually calculated off of accumulated overall damage, and since shotguns are the highest damaging and easiest to shoot, they're a really easy way to level up your shooting skill. The reloading skill also essentially just determines how fast you can reload your guns. Leveling this is pretty easy, as all you have to do is have a gun and ammo. After that, all you need to do is unload and reload the same gun over and over for XP. Alrighty, the last category is the Survivalist tree. This one is probably one of the more important, as you'll find yourself using at least the foraging skill time and time again, as it gives a couple of shortcuts that can really save your skin should you find yourself out of town. The fishing skill is a really nice source of nutrition and fat, and leveling up the skill, you have a reduced chance of breaking the line and letting the fish or bait escape. It also increases your odds to catch more and larger fish. The best way to level this is to fish around the times of 6 AM to 9 AM and 6 PM to 9 PM. This is around the time you'll catch the most amount of fish, preferably using a spear if you care about messing up your better quality fishing rods. Catching anything, and literally anything, will increase your fishing skill, whether it's an old pair of shoes or a huge pike. Though catching larger fish does net the more XP you'd actually get. The second way to fatten up your character for the winter would be the trapping skill. Increasing the skill doesn't really do much other than increase the chance that you catch something in your set traps, because you still need the magazines in order to make the recipes. The only way you can actually level up the skill is by harvesting your traps with animals in them. And lastly, in my opinion, we have one of the more clutch skills out there, and that's going to be the foraging skill. Essentially, the foraging skill allows you to find more materials and resources in the woods. This is especially useful if you're missing tools such as a knife or a hammer. It also allows you to find more food in the woods, such as insects, berries, and mushrooms. The higher skill allows you to find more variety in objects. An example would be being able to find crickets and other insects at level 4+ foraging. The cool thing about insects is actually how much hunger they reduce and how they are non-perishable. So this is actually a really good way to prepare for winter without bringing out the butter and ice cream, because you can essentially just forage for like a week straight and stockpile hundreds upon hundreds of cockroaches, crickets, grasshoppers, whatever it takes. And you'll be set for quite a while. It really came in use in my Zero to Hero series, so I may or may not have a bias. But yeah, definitely came in clutch for me. Anyways, that's going to be it for my brief overview of every skill in Zomboid. I hope you've all picked something up after this episode. It didn't really go in depth, but hopefully it helped explain to you newer guys out there what exactly every skill does. Anyways, if you guys did enjoy it, hitting a like and subscribing would mean the world to me. I cover a lot of Project Zomboid content and games like it. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.